Project, and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. Montana State and Montana, the same opponent in consecutive weeks. What will we know Saturday? And Jalen Ramsey traded. Get into that a little bit. And our ESPN roundtable with Sacramento State defensive coordinator and former Montana Grizzly, Andy Thompson. It is Tutel Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio and SWX Montana Television. Outstanding to be with you across the state, across Western Montana. Thanks for spending some time here with us. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web as well, 1029ESPN.com. You go online, you check out the website. You got a bunch of stuff going on there, including listening live. That's the stream on the Listen Live tab. The stream brought to us by Opportunity Bank. Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. You can also pick up your phone and call if you would like to. 329-1899, 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Raggage Brothers RV phone line. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. We're going to go through Montana State and Montana and where we're at, especially when they have the same team that they are playing in consecutive weeks. Montana State falling last week. What's going to happen this weekend? Well, of course, we don't know, but we can assess a little bit of that stuff and what we think is going to happen and how this is coloring our perception of both these teams. I think there's a couple things to get into there. It is also, boys and girls, a Wednesday. We're going to give you wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern. Got some trivia questions for you, so we'll get those on the board and send you over to the Desperado for some wings today. We got to get into this Jalen Ramsey trade. This is an interesting thing. It's obviously a big trade within the context of both the Jaguars and the Rams, but also where you at with an NFL team and what they're trying to do in the landscape of the NFL, if that's the right way to go about it. Next hour, we will, of course, have another Wing It Wednesday and our ESPN Roundtable, which we do every Wednesday on the show. It'll be on ESPN Radio again tomorrow afternoon. Sacramento State defensive coordinator Andy Thompson. Andy Thompson, a longtime coordinator for Jerome Sowers at Northern Arizona. He was, of course, a football player for the University of Montana. In fact, his senior year was Bobby Hauck's first year as the head coach at the University of Montana. So we got a lot of great stuff from him talking about the days playing for the University of Montana, going around the Big Sky Conference, and obviously the just jumping onto the scene that Sacramento State has been this season under Troy Taylor in his first year, and obviously Andy Thompson his first year there. So there you go. That's what we got in the show today. At the show Outlook. That's what it is. Intro, Outlook, all that stuff. Brought to us by MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Go online, get an estimate. And the most fun, most insured, best company you can find for it online. MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Colter, welcome back in. You had gone down, cruised down to practice, talked to Coach How quickly came back in over here. Nice day out there in the world. My goodness. Not that we'd know. Spending 9 hours in, a windowless hovel inferno in front of these microphones. But for the good folks out there, like today's the day you did want to have the construction job. You know what I mean? Go out there, hold the stop and slow sign, dig a ditch, whatever it is. Perfect.
You're pretty lucky I came back. As I was walking out, Coach Houck was like, "Why don't you go stay?" I was like, "Oh, I got to go to a radio show." Should have just stayed.
Should have stayed, man. I mean, you get the invite.
They were in the stadium today, too, which actually means that it's actually like hot.
Yeah.
So it's always about 10 degrees hotter on the turf. So
on that grass.
And my car says 68, so that means on the grass, you're talking in the high 70s.
Yeah.
But it's like Bobby said, This is good because this is the weather we're going to be playing in California on Saturday. So it's actually random and coincidental acclimation for the Grizzlies.
Hey, before we get into this, we want to also let everybody know we're excited about this. But next week, we are starting a giveaway that we're pumped up about. We got a kegerator. That's right, a refrigerator built to hold a keg, because why would you need anything else to jumble up the mess in there? Just make it for one thing, the most important thing, the beer. And also a keg as well. We're going to throw the beer in as well. Kegerator from Fred's Appliance, beer from Great Burn Brewing. We're doing a giveaway over the next couple of weeks with you. It's going to start on Monday, a word of the day. And it's football season, man. It's fall. You need a little something to, enjoy it with. This is a fun giveaway. We've done it a couple of times before. We're certainly happy to do it again. So make sure you're with us next week and listening in. Give you the word of the day. You text that into us, and we'll get somebody a kegerator and a keg, and they will be very happy and loyal listeners for life. That's the deal. One at a time, one soul at a time. That's how we do it. Coulter, Montana State lost to Sacramento State Saturday. Montana plays Sacramento State this Saturday. I had a couple of different things that I wanted to go through with you on this, but the more I've been thinking about what we witnessed on Saturday, we talk about recency bias a lot, and you don't want to be a prisoner of the moment and all that, and that's true. And also, I think sometimes you see things and you go, oh, okay, the truth at some extent was revealed. And I'm interested on this because I feel like I've been having sort of an evolving perception of Montana State and their football team, and I've been pretty heavily influenced by what I saw on Saturday. But I'm wondering for you right now, what you saw Saturday, how much has your perception of Montana State changed from that coming out of that game?
It's an interesting question because I was really thinking about the Cats as they are, and I think that I was thinking about the parallels between the Grizz and their struggles the last couple of years and Montana State and their incremental progress as a program, but also this giant elephant in the room that they can't seem to get past, and these glaring weaknesses. And I think that the one thing that's interesting is I've always been a guy that really likes the physical style of football, and I think there's way less of a margin for error. Let's say this again. You can make more mistakes by not putting yourself in a position to make a bunch of mistakes. That's what the Cats have been able to get by with the last couple of years. Like last year, they still had the same glaring weaknesses. They also just had the ace in the hole in Troy Anderson, and they also had this attitude of when your back's against the wall, fight your way out. And I think that's going to work in the Big Sky Conference more often than not. It's just a matter of how does it work when you play the best teams. And I think Montana State's been fortunate, but also they deserve a ton of credit for it, but they've been fortunate that Montana has not had that same attitude. And that's why the Montana State Bobcats have won the last 3 CAC Years games. Point blank, period. It has been straight up a fist fight based on toughness, and Montana State's been tougher. That's it. But I think you hit a ceiling, and you've talked about this for weeks, where you can't just fight your way out of the corner when you get to then playing teams that have equal talent that you have. And so I think that Saturday was very revelatory for the Cats because I really do think it put on display not only everybody knows what their weaknesses have been, but now Sac State showed how to exploit those weaknesses. And they showed that it's not just about toughness. You do have to have a level of execution. And the other thing that I think has been really fascinating to watch with the Cats is they've played 4 or 5 quarters where they look like a straight-up final team. Like make no mistake, the Cats' individual talent is excellent. They have as good a talent as anybody in the league as far as certain spots.
Guy to guy, yeah.
I mean, everybody in the FCS are going to have holes in your roster unless you're NDSU because that's just the way that the cycles of recruiting goes. But the Cats have 2, at least on paper, elite safeties. They have 4, maybe even 5 elite defensive linemen. They have 4, maybe even 5 elite offensive linemen. Who knows what sort of production guys like Kevin Cassis and Travis Johnson would have if they didn't play in the system that they play. I mean, Kevin Cassis is really good. He's going to end his career with a pretty good number of catches and touchdowns and all that stuff, despite being a guy that has not really gotten thrown the ball much because of their offense. But all that said, those 4 or 5 quarters have been offset by a team that has just played horrendously bad. And so much of it is not necessarily just your weaknesses. If you have weaknesses, which everybody has weaknesses, Montana right now, they have some weaknesses going into this matchup with Sac State that are going to be fascinating to analyze as well. But you can mitigate your weaknesses a lot easier if you don't shoot yourself in the foot. And that's been the perplexing part about Montana State is they have this excellent high-level talent, and when they play their best, they look nationally elite. When they play their worst, they're still good because they have really good players on both lines, and that helps you along the way. But when you're just straight hurting yourself, when you're just doing things that you can control, I mean, Jared Patmos is an excellent punter. I'm not trying to throw Jared Patmos under the bus, but he somehow has been mishandling snaps the last 3 weeks. And maybe it's on the long snapper because they have a new long snapper who's not the same guy they've had for 3 years. But it's little things like that. I mean, if you're the Cats and you want to run the ball and play defense, Jared Patmos' roll punting has been one of their elite weapons, one of the most underrated weapons. I think he's allowed something like 2.5 yards per punt return during his career. You can't return punts against the Cats. Well, when the snap is botched and then all of a sudden you kick the ball out of bounds at the 50 like they did on Saturday, then they did it the week before, too. It's like Jeff Choate said, you have a 6-yard punt, you might as well just throw a pick. I should have just gone for it.
Sure.
You know?
Right.
I mean, if you're only going to net 6 yards, you might as well just go for it and roll the dice. It's little things like that, but it's not even just that. It's the penalties. It's the misalignments. And that's the thing that's crazy. Like, what's happening with this team? Why are they doing this? Because year one, they didn't have the talent at all, but they fixed that sort of thing so much better, and that helped them maybe be overachieve. And now they have all this talent, and they're underachieving because of the way that they're shooting themselves in the foot. So I think that's the number one thing that they got to lock in. I think some of their weaknesses, you can't just go hit the waiver wire in the middle of the FCS season. You're not going to go get yourself a quarterback. You're not going to go get yourself a corner. You can get some guys back healthy maybe, but what it really comes down to is you need your dudes to be playing at their best. And that's the thing where I think Montana State's lacking, but also a place where they could have a lot of optimism. Because if you look across their roster, there's very few dudes that are playing their best version of football. There have been guys that have been solid and just fine, but there's very few guys that are playing their best version of football right now. And if you want to make a run at the league championship, you got to have probably 12, 15 guys that are playing the best football of their careers at that moment.
Yeah, I must say I am. When you look back, like when you talk it through and you go, okay, well, Montana State's 5-1 heading into last week, and you go, okay, their best win is probably at Western Illinois, and Western Illinois is down, but a tough place to play. They go on the road to the Missouri Valley and get a big win. Okay, after that, they got Norfolk State. Before that, they had Southeast Missouri State at home. Both of those games they should run away with, and they did. Then you got Northern Arizona. Now their best space of play this season was in the second half of the Northern Arizona State game. But they started that game in a huge hole. And this is where it starts to shift for me, because when you're 5-1, you go, hey, not where you want to be, but what matters how you started, it matters how you finish. And they finished that game very strong and ended up winning handily over Northern Arizona. Now you sit back and you go, why were you down to that team to start with? Why was it so ugly to begin with? I mean, the pick six, okay, it's obvious, but it was 28-7. And then,
well, that's the thing that Jeff Choate always says too, though, is that it's the easiest position to scrutinize is the quarterback. This is the one where everybody's watching. Tucker Rovig's not been great, but Logan Jones is a fifth-year senior. He fumbled in that Northern Arizona game. Jacquay Allen misfields a punt. I mean, it's not as if it's all on Tucker Rovig. Totally. They got dudes who are straight studs who are not performing like him.
Who made mistakes. Now, and again, they rallied and they came back and they hammered Northern Arizona in the second half, and that was their best 2 quarters of football this season in that game, so give them credit for it. Then Cal Poly, they're up 28-7, and it falls apart. And you have the shank punt like you were talking about and a couple other things, and all of a sudden Cal Poly goes in, and then you go, well, they won in overtime. You know, when they had to have it, they had it. That's great, but also after a loss, you go, why did you have to have it? Why couldn't you just finish that thing off when you were in the absolute driver's seat? And then Sacramento State comes, and Sacramento State is, look out, the actually best team you've played. In fact, Sacramento State is the only what I would call really good team that Montana State has played yet at the FCS level. And they got hammered by that team.
Yes.
And so the more that I think, when you take a look at the talent and you look at where they are capable of playing, this is a team that is a good team, a really good team, actually.
Really talented team.
Very talented team. But they are not a great team. And part of it is the exposure of being required to be one-dimensional because you just simply can't throw the football in a way that matters. Okay, they threw the football for 262 yards. It didn't matter, and they had to do it. But the other part of it is that they sit here, and I understand that they're injured, okay, and that is a big deal. You're missing Isaiah Fonseca and Troy Anderson. That's giant steps down.
Oh, that's the number one underrated factor in this whole thing is that Troy Anderson is the best player in the league, and he has 2 touchdowns and 18 tackles this year. Right. That's a far cry from 21 touchdowns that he scored last year on the ground alone.
Yes, and you're right. And listen, I recognize that for both of these guys.
And you see it so much as a fan, too. My brother said this on the Big Sky Breakdown podcast. He said, when Troy Anderson's playing quarterback, love it, hate it, wherever you stand on it doesn't matter. When he's a photographer sitting in the back of the end zone, he's looking down the camera lens, and number 15 is lined up at the back of, right behind center. You're like, all right, get the finger ready. You never know what's going to happen. This could be 6. It doesn't matter. They're on the 99. They got 99 yards to go. This could be 6. And that aura of, man, what are we going to do with 15? That doesn't exist right now. And I think that is a huge hit to the entire persona of the Bobcats.
Major. But nonetheless, when they played the first really good team that they faced, they failed the test. Montana State did. And they can and they will rally, I think. I mean, they got North Dakota, who is not as good as Sacramento State, but is still a good team, and they're on the road in that game.
And a team that, because of the odd man front and the blitzing that they do, Montana State's gap schemes has just taken them apart. Even when Montana State was not great offensively. Yeah. I mean, they went to Grand Forks 2 years ago when Chris Murray was, a very unproven, he never really was proven, but a very, very unproven green version of himself. And Troy Anderson was playing his second college game, and they hung 49 on him and just wailed on him.
I mean, no, not to spoil the preview here, but we will both be picking Montana State to beat North Dakota in a week from Saturday, coming off a bye,
and then Southern Utah, North Colorado.
My point is that this is going to linger for a month because we're not going to know until UC Davis, and who knows where UC Davis is even at that point. But at UC Davis, UC Davis is a good team at least. Totally. Okay, that's going to be good, a big game. All of that. But the point is like we're going to sit here and go, okay, you did it. Say they win. Even if they get out there to, what would then be 8-2. And by the way, they're probably a playoff team, almost certainly at that point, almost regardless of what happens with 8 wins.
Yep.
There's still going to be major question marks to me about this team because of the things they have not been able to do. Now, we'll see what the health situation is because it's a hugely different world when Isaiah Fonseca is a full go and Troy Anderson is a full go. The problem is that also the way that they've used Troy Anderson has repeatedly made it such that he isn't a full go. And I mean, it's his style. I understand that, and he's too tough for his own good. It seems to me in some ways, like where he is always going to lower the shoulder and run people over. And by the way, when he does, it is incomprehensible the force that he runs with. I mean, I have watched guys come up, fill the hole, and end up 180 degrees the other direction from where they were as nothing but pavement underneath Troy Anderson. Injured. And it is, as a fan watching it is just astounding what he's capable of doing. And yet, it seems like, and maybe part of it is stylistic, every other time that he carries the football, he's got an ankle that is getting tweaked again. And, if you come in with an ankle that's hurt and that, it's the propensity for it to be re-hurt is just so much higher. Anyway, all that to say that particularly without a quarterback, and I don't want to harp on it, but it was exposed in a way that it just hasn't been exposed before. And the defense, they couldn't step up and match what they had matched at times before to carry their side of the thing for their team, where you give up 5 consecutive touchdowns to Sacramento State. It just seems like this is going to be out there for a long time because they don't play another really good team for a month.
The coaching staff deserves a ton of credit for the players having the sense of belief that the way that they won for 5 weeks in a row would continue. But I also thought it was very revealing that Jeff Choate said on Monday, he said, we got whipped on the line of scrimmage on both sides, and we didn't know how to react to that. It wasn't as easy as we thought it was going to be, was the line that he said. And I think that's interesting because it's not just the quarterback play. They rushed for 18 yards on 16 carries in the second half. That's not happened. No one has stifled Montana State's run game. So why? What's the issue? Why was Montana State's offensive line not playing with the physicality that they've played with for the last month and a half? What happened just to the identity of what this team has been? I have two questions for you.
Yeah.
My first question is, on one hand, you'd say, okay, coming out of the Cal Poly game where you just scraped by in overtime and you play in the team that's going to physically beat you up more than any team in the league because of the triple option, the bye could have been, some would say, perfect right there before Sac State. But then I argued with my brother on the Big Sky Breakdown earlier today that I actually think it's better that it happened after the Sac State game because you got exposed. And now you have a bye to go address that. What's more perfect for the bye?
Well, I see both sides of it. I guess the question is, Jeff Choate in his press conference talked about the self-scout.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't have the opportunity to do that when you're just getting ready for the next game. My question is, would they have done that in the way that they're now going to do that without having the loss the way that they endured it happen to them? Because I think a bye heading into Sacramento State for Troy Anderson, for Isaiah Fonse, is obviously going to be nothing but helpful. And if you can all of a sudden recognize and say, hey, we got to break some tendencies here or else they're going to come out and expose us, then it would work hugely in Montana State's favor to have it ahead of the Sacramento State game. I'm not convinced that would have happened. I think sometimes you need somebody else to show you what you're doing wrong.
Exactly.
And I think
you still come out of the bye, you haven't really had to face your weaknesses full force.
Yes.
Having to face them now, you have to face them.
Yes, you do. You have to. And again, I thought Jeff Choate was outstanding in terms of taking responsibility for those things, both post game and in the press conference. Again, I don't think people can appreciate. I can't appreciate what it's like to be the face, the head coach, the responsible party for a football team where 20,000 people show up and are in the stadium, another 10,000 hanging out around the thing. You are what is going on today. And now we're announcing Kenny Chesney and an $18 million thing that 500 people plus have donated to. And you want this, and you are the face of all this, and then you go out there and you have your worst game of the season and get smoked by the only good team you've played. I mean, it's embarrassing at a certain level. And look, on the outside, you go, man, it's football. It happens. Like, you win some games, you lose some games. Like, it's not that big a deal. But it is if you're the head coach, I think, and especially in that moment at homecoming and everything else. And it would be really easy to kind of circle the wagons and go, and kind of protect the family, so to speak, and go out there and kind of be on the offensive a little bit. Jeff Choate didn't take that. He went out there and said, look, it's a bummer that this happened this day, especially. Wish it wouldn't have took some of the shine off of it, is I think the way he put it. And then he went through and said all that stuff, and I give him a ton of credit for that because that's not easy to do. I don't think anybody that isn't that guy, that isn't the head coach, can truly appreciate the pressure that comes where it is your show that everybody is looking at. And then we come on here and, easy for us to say, yeah, well, it's your fault, it's your whatever it is, and then, be on our merry way. But when you got to wear that and live with that, that's hard to do.
We can argue about this part later, but it's not the only good team Montana State's played. It's the only elite team they've played.
Yeah.
Southeast Missouri State's likely going to be a playoff team, more because of the conference they play in than any other thing, but they're likely going to be a playoff team. Cal Poly and NAU are both going to be in the mix to be a 500 or better team. Your point's taken, though. The only top 20 actually real, team that could win a game or two
Southeast
in the playoffs.
Missouri?
Southeast Missouri State.
It's going to be a playoff team. I think so.
They're in the Ohio Valley, bro. There's only two teams that are in the Ohio Valley can make the playoffs. Jacksonville State and Southeast Missouri State will make it, or Jacksonville State and that's it will make it. That's all.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
This is the FCS in a nutshell, man.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But the other question, I know we're up against it.
We got a couple minutes.
We talked about this last week, and maybe 2 weeks ago, and I asked you about the habitual nature of knowing that you can rally when things don't go right. And that's Montana State. These lulls where they just played just not good football at all for multiple minutes and sometimes even quarter and 2 quarters in a row. There's been so many times where they've done that. I mean, they were down 14-7 to Norfolk State. They were losing 24-21 to Wagner last year. Before they ended up boat racing them and beating them by 25 points, but it doesn't account for the lulls. But I wonder, it's impossible to determine why they're doing this, because if they knew why, they would fix it. But I think that it's not necessarily the why you have to ask. I think it's the habit of doing it. The more times you do things that are bad habits, the less you have to actually look in the mirror. That's, again, why I think this loss is actually good for Montana State going into their bye, because they actually have to straight up look in the mirror.
I agree with you. Look, there's no why. There's no write it down, scientific, quantifiable way to sit here and go, well, this is why you play bad. You can look at the plays and go, well, you didn't do this and do that. But assessing that on a team-wide scale and the way, that's the way it goes. That's why football is football. Look, Montana against Idaho State in their homecoming football game played their worst full 20 minutes of football to start that game. And they were down 17-0, or 17-3, whatever it was. 17-0, yeah. And it looked like the embarrassment that it looked like what happened at Montana State for their homecoming was about to transpire in Missoula for their homecoming. And nobody remembers that, because when that pendulum swung back, it was all over. And you know what? That's exactly what happened for Montana State against Northern Arizona. They already had that game there. My point in saying that is that every team, I mean, who's played better, Stem Tuster than the University of Montana? In the Big Sky Conference, nobody. Okay, nobody has. They still have instances and times where they have played mediocre to flat-out bad football, and they got absolutely run for a space of time in a game. That happens. That's a reality. But your point is very well taken. Look, man, call it what you want, club lacrosse. I understand. There's nothing like Division I college football. But my senior year, we could not start a game ahead. We gave up goal after goal after goal to start games, and we're always behind. Probably 90% of the games that we played, even against teams that we crushed 22-4, we would be down 2-0. And we talked about it and addressed it and looked, and there's no answer, man. Like, there's no answer as to why, and this is what's happening in Montana State.
The example is so holistic, too, because if you look at all the games in the Jeff Choate era, there's been so many times when they've ripped out to great starts and lost those games. Almost all their wins are comeback wins, and almost all their losses are blowing leads.
Right.
There's no real back and forth. They're either down 22-0 in Missoula and they come rip roaring back and win against the Grizz, or they're up 14-7 against Cooper Kupp's Eastern Washington Eagles, and then they lose 41-17 because the whole thing just gets turned on its head. It's just a fascinating dynamic, and you have to wonder how much of it is just part of just the emotional, the mentality part of the game.
I think it is. Look, for whatever reason, the game on Saturday, Montana State never felt up to me. The energy level that they were playing with never really crescendoed.
Yes, isn't that weird?
It's so weird. And here's what I'm saying. I think that a lot of these games they come into, and
you were on the sidelines too, so you were right there.
I was right there. I mean, I watching the whole thing. And I think a lot of times I've seen Montana State, they have this parabola of energy where they enter sometimes at, not at 0, but not at 100 by any stretch of the imagination. But then you start hitting some people and you fall behind and you go, we're not going to do this bleep, bleep, bleep anymore. And then the eyes get wide and Bryce Sterk is coming off the edge and Braden Conkle is coming up this gut and it starts to, you start to wear people out. And it never happened. It never happened on Saturday, and I don't know what the explanation for that is. I mean, Sacramento State, give them a ton of credit. They're a really good football team. It's not like you can just go out and do it, but you can, in theory, right, you can control the energy that you've got, and it just didn't seem to be there.
I mean, part of it, I think, was schematics. I honestly thought that Troy Taylor was just one step ahead in the chess match against Kane Ione the entire time. And I think that can get frustrating. I mean, when you're Bryce Sterk, the actual physicality of winning the one-on-one is almost inevitable. You are going to beat the guy in front of you in terms of being able to toss him to the side.
But when the ball's already out going the other direction,
then you're like, okay, well, that's gone. I better start running this way. And it gets frustrating when you do it for 60 times in a game. You know, I mean, it's like Sturck said that in the post-game press conference. He said, it's pretty tiresome when I beat my guy and the ball's gone, and then I got to go chase the receiver on the other side. Like, the other part about college football is this is all about the most elite college football teams at all levels are the ones that can have the most sustained focus and effort. So many teams, even the best teams, have lulls. Because college football is so long. The games take so long.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's adults scheming up strategies to make kids make mistakes. That's the whole point of college football, basically, in terms of having success.
Right.
Being able to avoid those pitfalls, though, is so... That's if people ask what was so great about Bobby Hauck's teams the first time around at Montana, and it was that sustained level of focus. It's not as if they didn't play poorly at times, because they did a lot of times. But it was like the roller coaster that Montana State is so crazy to watch this year, because again, their highs is straight up good enough to beat almost anybody in the country, but then their lows. Like, did you guys practice this week? What's going on? The dichotomy is so perplexing.
Yeah, it is.
We've seen Montana have times this year where they weren't in a rhythm, where they weren't executing, but it wasn't like this crazy lull where they're just like that first 20 minutes against NAU. You couldn't have hurt yourself more, from a pick six to a fumble to multiple penalties to lining up wrong. I mean,
yeah. Everything.
How? How? Some of the stuff, it's like Choate says, I'm never going to get on anybody for a penalty that has to do with aggressiveness. Like, if you crack back on a punt return and you get called for a block in the back, okay, like, if it costs us a big return, I'm probably going to yell at you, but I'm not going to tell you to play any different. But when you're getting illegal procedure penalties or your illegal motions and stuff like that, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
And you just can't do it, especially if you are a team that has glaring weaknesses that you're trying to hide.
Well, that's the thing. That's the other thing, is that defensively, Montana State is loaded. I mean, there's good talent wise as you can get. So then this is on Kane Ione and Jeff Choate to have them ready to go and do what they need to do.
That's the other thing is you talk about just the actual matchups between coordinators. This was the first time that Kane Ione had to go against. I mean, Troy Taylor's a first-year head coach, but he is a veteran offensive play caller.
Yeah, and he's the play caller for Sac State. It's not OC that's doing it.
Right.
He's the one doing it. And did it for, oh, by the way, Utah before that, and oh, by the way, Eastern Washington before that, and that went pretty well for him. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, pretty well the most efficient passing offense in the history of college football.
But offensively, is there an offense that's more versatile than the University of Montana's? I mean, I don't know that there is. You can run the quarterback, you can run the running back, you can throw it to the running back, you can throw it to the slot, you can throw it to the tight ends, you can throw it deep outside, you can throw the hook route, you can throw it to the flat, you can throw anywhere you want to go. You can do it any way you want to do it. If you're Montana State, you got one thing you can do. And I'm not even, and when I say one thing, I'm not simple. Like, they're very versatile in their run game, but it's still the same. It's like Travis Johnson's going to come in and run the +1 thing, probably going to hand it off 5 times, probably going to carry it 10. They're going to hand it off a few times to somebody, and then they're going to throw it a few times, and that's what they're going to do. And if that's not working, there isn't a next thing to go to. There's not really a next thing to try. You can hide disguise your offenses a little bit, but especially with Isaiah Fonse and Troy Anderson injured and or out, you can be multidimensional in the run game and should be, and to an extent they are, but I don't see a lot of like sprint out, pitch it around the corner happening in Montana State. Seems, I mean, this is a pretty basic thing. It's happened a couple times, but that's not even in the mix of what they do. It's always just coming straight out of the gun, and all the different formations that they run, and there's a lot of them. What is actually happening is not that different from one another, and I don't know if they got other stuff that they can do.
Their offensive play design, their offensive alignments, all that stuff was way more diverse when they had, quote unquote, less traditional quarterbacks.
Yeah. Stu Tell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. You want to get some wings? Of course you do. Give us a call, 329-1899, 329-1899, the phone number. We're going to give a Wing It Wednesday. Colt has got some questions for you. You're going to get yourself a basket of wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern, doing some trivia with us. We do this every Wednesday. Have a good time with it. 329-1899, 329-1899 right now. Boys and girls, I've been telling you about getting your gutters clean. It's a beautiful day today. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. That's what I hear. That's what the man tells me, Jack Weatherman. He knows. Gutter cleaning, it's not fun, yet your gutters got to be clean, especially this time of year. MissoulaGutterCleaning.com, that's where you go. You don't want to waste your time. You don't want to, potentially get injured. And, hey, maybe, your significant other, your wife, she loves you for it, okay? Right? Because you got the thing done that needed to get done. You found a way to get it done, and you got your time back. And guess what? You get an estimate right now. When the work is done, they'll give you a $20 gift card to your favorite brewery or coffee shop when the job is complete. It's just that great. You can go on a date. You take the kids out to dinner. You can watch a game. Do whatever you want to do. Just don't get up there and mess with the gutters because it's not fun, and you're no good at it, okay? Be honest with yourself. Self-scout on the gutter cleaning, okay? You're not good at it. Let a professional do it. MissoulaGutterCleaning.com. Online, MissoulaGutterCleaning.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
The big skies are open. Go wild with Opportunity Reward Checking. Go ahead, jump, dance, shout. Opportunity Reward Checking will make you do that. Go wild when you get your 1% cash back on qualified debit card purchases. It all starts with an Opportunity Reward Checking account from Opportunity Bank. Visit a branch today to get started. Then go wild and spend your 1% cash back however you want. Go wild with Reward Checking from Opportunity Bank. Some restrictions may apply. Member FDIC.
Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
Get ready to sing, dance, and laugh until your cheeks hurt with the interactive, unforgettable Dueling Pianos show, October 19th at the UC Ballroom. Dueling Pianos is a gala benefiting Montana children, and you can help by purchasing tickets at montanahope.org. Guests will enjoy a lively evening of dueling pianos, hors d'oeuvres, silent auctions, and raffles. All proceeds will benefit the Montana Hope Project and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy, education, and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Tell Us Something is calling for you to pitch your true story on the theme of Tipping Point. 8 storytellers will be selected to share their true personal story from memory on the theme of Tipping Point. And each storyteller is paid a stipend for sharing their story. The live event is happening December 10th with a pitch deadline November 18th. Call 406-203-4683 to pitch your story. Members from our deaf community are welcome to pitch a story online at tellussomething.org/tellastory.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 129 ESPN Sports Center. The Big Sky Conference continues, putting 5 teams. Oh, did I bring you the wrong one?
You did.
Well,
let's find the other one.
It's still good, though, because it is worth noting. The top 25 has 5 teams in it from the Big Sky, including Sacramento State, who is at 15. They're there for the first time since 2011. Impressive by the Big Sky. By the way, Eastern Washington could get in there. They could have 6 teams in there.
How about some high school polls? Butte, in the midst of their best start to a football season in a generation, Bulldogs are 7-0, and that was rewarded in this week's Treasure State Media Poll. For the first time this season, the Butte Bulldogs sit atop that Treasure State Media poll. They are led by Tommy Malott, and they're off to their best start since 1991. They got 19 out of 28 first-place votes in that poll to move ahead of Billings West for the first time this season. Missoula Sentinels number 3, Bozeman number 4, Helena Capital number 5. In Class A, Hamilton received 11 of 22 first-place votes to remain number 1. Miles City is the only Class A team undefeated through 6 games, and they're number 2 after receiving 8 first-place votes. Dillon's 3rd, Frenchtown 4th, Laurel 5th. And in Class B, Eureka earned a first-place vote, meaning Fairfield number 1, but not unanimously for the first time this season. Eureka's 2, Manhattan 3, Red Lodge 4, and Malta is 5.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Hey, you want to do a Wing It Wednesday? Want some wings to the Desperado? Give us a call, 329-1899. 329-1899, the phone number. You call us right now. See if we can get you some wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern. It is Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. You're finding us on Twitter? Well, that's great. At Gus Tutel, that's me. At 102.9 ESPN is the station, and at Skyline Sports MT for all your up-to-the-moment Big Sky Conference information, also SkylineSportsMT.com. And now, Instagram. Coulter, how about that?
Instantgram.
The pictorial version of what we are as a radio show. 102.9 ESPN, at 102.9 ESPN is the handle for Instagram there. Coulter, Jalen Ramsey traded to the Los Angeles Rams from the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars get a first-round pick in 2020, a first-round pick in 2021, and a fourth-round pick in 2021 from the Los Angeles Rams. I think if you're the Rams and you're just in the Super Bowl and it's not going as well as you wanted, but you still obviously think that you got the group there to be a Super Bowl team, to go for it. And Jared Goff is still on his rookie contract, perhaps for just this year, and then negotiate from there. But you have another opportunity with a guy leading the team at the quarterback spot to be, on his rookie deal, and you can spend money elsewhere. Jalen Ramsey, by the way, I'm not so sure Jalen Ramsey isn't still on his rookie deal and is going to have to get paid as well. So Goff isn't on his rookie deal. He just signed his extension this year, but nonetheless, they're still a young team with a young core, and Ramsey's on his rookie deal. I like the idea, though, of just going, we're going to figure out a way to make this happen, and we're going to go all in. And if we got to send guys away after that, then so be it. But it also seems precarious, man, to give up your next 2 first-round picks and a fourth-rounder for what that's worth to get a guy that certainly it seems like the Rams would expect to be trying to keep and sign long-term, but that doesn't have a long-term deal in place and is coming to you basically for this year. And then you got to find the money for anyways after that. And are they good enough to go, yeah, this is the team that we want to do this with a question mark in Todd Gurley from a health standpoint, with a still, to me, a question mark about Jared Goff and where he's at in terms of the level of play that he's going to consistently bring you, and a defense that has been only okay.
And everything you just said does not factor in the complete erosion of their offensive line. And that's why I don't know how much the Jalen Ramsey thing helps them, because Todd Gurley's knee is officially arthritic, and it's officially a concern. The Rams ran more play action stuff than anybody in the league last year. If you don't have the threat of Todd Gurley, your offense becomes very pedestrian because it's a mechanism-based offense. What happened to the Rams' offensive line? Well, Roger Salford and John Sullivan, their 2 best interior guys, left. They replaced them with rookies. That, in turn, has put a ton of pressure on their tackles, one of whom is Andrew Whitworth, who is the oldest non-quarterback in the NFL. He's a Hall of Famer, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Andrew Whitworth is great.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal in Cincinnati. He's phenomenal in L.A. But he's 37. You're not getting any better offensive line you can maintain as a quarterback, especially when teams invest in protecting you. But there's no protecting you when you're playing left tackle in the NFL, especially in the NFC or in the AFC West. Excuse me. I mean, we got Von Miller and all the freaks that the 49ers got. It's just a tall task for anybody to be able to handle. So I think that's the number one factor is their offensive line. But also they had a star-laden roster, but a lot of those guys were big-name players that weren't necessarily big-time playmakers still. Like Aqib Talib used to be good. I don't think he's that good anymore.
Yeah.
Marcus Peters,
he's on IR anyways, so.
That's what I'm saying. Then they just shift Marcus Peters out of town. No more Ndamukong Suh, no more Alec Ogletree. They have some holes for sure. But more than anything, it's just the fact that I think that everybody in the league kind of knows what the Rams are now. They know what Sean McVay wants to do. They have way more tape on the offense, way more strategy on how to stop the offense. And I think that teams around the league are reveling in beating them.
I think so too, and I think here's what I think. I think they're a good team, and I think when you're a good team, you should do everything in your power to win, because Super Bowls are hard to come by, and they were just there, and they certainly are one of the teams still in the NFC that has the capability to put it together and be there again at the end. And this move makes them better. I mean, Jalen Ramsey is one of the elite corners in the NFL. And is going to help this team tremendously. And I think most guys, when they go to a new place, play with a certain renewed attitude, a renewed vigor that maybe they lost at some point along the way, and especially when you had a falling out with the coach or whatever it was in Jacksonville. But that said, I think you're also setting yourself up for future – you're setting yourself up for a roller coaster, not sustained success, when you are giving up a ton of assets in order to get a guy right now. And – you can look at it and say, well, you could only hope and pray that one of those first-round draft picks became Jalen Ramsey. And that's true. That's a fair point. But also, Jalen Ramsey won't be this guy in 2028, which one of those draft picks might have been. And, oh, by the way, during that time, you would have gotten them on a rookie deal. And so it's none of it's known, right? But it is, you are giving up a lot of potential to get right now a very good known commodity. But also it's a melting block of ice, right? I mean, he is only, first of all, we know for sure he's going to get a lot of money. Okay?
Yep.
So where is that coming from? But moreover, we know that Jalen Ramsey is in his prime right now. Maybe he gets even better in the next year or two. But I don't know how much better he could possibly get. And then at some point, it's going to start to go the other direction. And by the way, he's going to be making a lot of money even at that time when it starts to go that way. And so then, do you try and trade him again? Do you try and move him again? But what you are already going to have given up is never going to come back to you on the back end of it with this guy.
Got to win now. It's the only way to operate in the NFL, in my opinion. Planning for a future is planning for a future that's never going to come.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. It's an open conversation. We'll see. The NFC West just got more interesting, though. No doubt about that. 329-1899. If you want to do some trivia, we'll do it with you right after this. Also, breaking news from one Brock Osweiler. 329-1899. Call right now. Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
We combine quality ingredients with home-style recipes to create the Montana Club's Fall Comfort Food Menu. Savor our tender boneless beef short rib or caramelized brandy apple pork shank. Dig into our classic savory chicken pot pie or fall for our zesty skillet lasagna. Top things off with our creamy pumpkin skillet a la mode. Scratch-made comfort food that's as real as it gets. Served 11:30 to close at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up, pump it up.
Quench your thirst at Town Pump. Pepsi and Mountain Dew 1 liters are buy 2, get 1 free. Plus Aquafina 1 liter water 2 for $2.50. Whether you're hungry, thirsty, or need a quick pick-me-up, you can find what you're looking for at your Town Pump, right down the road.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
Get ready to sing, dance, and laugh until your cheeks hurt with the interactive, unforgettable Dueling Pianos show, October 19th at the UC Ballroom. Dueling Pianos is a gala benefiting Montana children, and you can help by purchasing tickets at montanahope.org. Guests will enjoy a lively evening of dueling pianos, hors d'oeuvres, silent auctions, and raffles. All proceeds will benefit the Montana Hope Project and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
Tutel and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes. 1029ESPN.com.
Well, it all comes for all of us at some point, I guess is how to say it. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 1029 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Coulter, officially, it was something that's been unofficial maybe for the past, 6 months or so. Well, it's maybe not quite that long, 2 months. Former Kalispell and Arizona State quarterback Brock Osweiler retiring from the NFL. Brock Osweiler played, of course, for the Denver Broncos, where he had the most success, went to the Houston Texans, didn't work out there, and then was at the Miami Dolphins this offseason, but did not make the team after they had brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick. They moved Ryan Tannehill, brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Who's now starting in Tennessee.
Who is... Tannehill's starting in Tennessee, and Fitzpatrick is now starting again in Miami.
Who would you rather have, Marcus Mariota or Kirk Cousins?
I'd rather have you.
Me too. And I'd never answer that question.
But Brock Osweiler saying in a statement on 9 News in Denver, the experience I did have, the people I did meet, relationships I did make, I'm not going to dwell on the things that didn't happen in my career. Being a kid from Kalispell, Montana, playing for the Denver Broncos, winning a Super Bowl, having the opportunity to sign a second contract. When you look back on it, I couldn't be more appreciative. It was great, end quote. So Brock Osweiler, 28 years old, retiring from the NFL. And, the decisions we make is an interesting one. The fork in the road where he was offered far more money from the Houston Texans to play in Houston, but was but clearly, especially in retrospect, left a much better situation for him in Denver.
Yeah.
A better team where he could have been more successful.
Besides the money, he went to the worst situation to get it gone to.
Right, with a coach who didn't want him to be there.
And then hated him outwardly the entire time he was there.
I mean, it was built to be a disaster in Houston. Now, I don't think anybody's ever going to fault anybody for going for, $75 million. By the way, didn't he go to Cleveland as well? Cleveland was.
He did for a hot minute, yeah.
But anyway, nobody's going to fault him to go there for $75 million and sit there and take that money and give it a run and be the guy, be the franchise quarterback. Would Brock Osweiler have been a great quarterback in Denver had he stayed? Question mark about it. He would have had a much better opportunity to be good, and maybe he's still playing now, if that had worked out in some way for him. But nonetheless, I mean, he was a major player on the landscape of quarterbacks in the NFL for a couple of years, and at the end of the day, not a successful career from a quarterback's in the NFL standpoint, but a very successful career in terms of being retired at 28 and being able to do pretty much whatever you want now with the rest of your life.
Told this story on the show twice, so I'll tell it one last time now that Brock Osweiler's career is over. It's as former Montana State head men's basketball coach Brian Fish used to say, "Boys, when I retire, if ever there's a line that appears, once upon a time signed a $75 million contract, I don't care what else you say about me."
That's right. It's a done deal.
Brock Osweiler went from Kalispell, Montana, straight to the bank. There's so many different ways of judging a career and what it meant and what it was and how successful it was. At the end of the day, the kid came from Flathead High School, where I don't even think they made the playoffs his senior year, to go to Arizona State to play for Dennis Erickson, becomes a second-round draft pick, and signs a fat contract. At the end of the day, you can scrutinize him all you want. Brock Osweiler's having a pretty good day today and probably a pretty good day every day for the rest of his life.
You could do worse. It's Stu Till and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. It is a Wednesday. Hour number 1 coming to a close. Hour number 2 straight ahead. Our ESPN Roundtable with Andy Thompson coming up. And a Wing It Wednesday. You want to do that? Give us a call, 329-1899. I got questions for you about undefeated football teams. Undefeated football teams at the various levels. So if you know a little something about that, give us a call, 329-1899. We'll give some wings away, and we will do our roundtable with Sacramento State defensive coordinator and former Grizz Andy Thompson right after this. Hey, look up. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's satellite internet. That's right. High-speed internet delivered from a satellite right to where you live. When you're beyond the reach of cable and fiber internet, look up. Eagle Satellite is our community's authorized HughesNet retailer. With HughesNet, you'll have the fast speeds, unlimited data with no hard data limits, and built-in Wi-Fi you need. Eagle Satellite has proudly helped our community get online for 39 years, and this year they want to help you get connected too. For a limited time, you can get free standard installation when you order HughesNet. Call Eagle Satellite at 406-728-9999 and see for yourself why HughesNet is America's #1 choice for satellite internet. That's Eagle Satellite, 406-728-9999. Eagle Satellite and HughesNet, proudly connecting our community.
Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula is like your paint doctor. They take the pain out of painting. Don't trust your home to anything less than professional PPG paints from Garden City Paint and Glass. Go to visualizecolors.com. Scan in your room photo to see what color combinations will look best before painting. That's visualizecolors.com. Featuring professional PPG paints. Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula, across from the Southside McDonald's at 3217 Brooks.
Footballs are flying, the elk are bugling, and everyone is talking about pumpkin. Here at Florence Coffee, we take pumpkin serious with our real pumpkin lattes, chais, and frappes. Made with real pumpkin that is sure to delight the senses. Also, try our all-natural pumpkin spice flavoring made from real spices and extracts. So when you get a craving for something pumpkin, be sure to stop by your nearest Florence Coffee.
The best flavor under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of The Advocates. Josh, do most injury accidents end up in court?
Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court through a fair negotiation with an insurance company. However, sometimes it is necessary. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get a fair settlement. Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court with a fair negotiation with the insurance company. However, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get the right settlement for you.
It's Josh at The Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
The fish are done biting, the boat's all packed away, and it's time to get back to what really matters, watching sports and drinking beer. Whether your letters are NHL, NBA, NCAA, MLB, catch your game at the Desperado Sports Tavern, Missoula's sports headquarters. With 32 HD TVs, there's no way you'll miss a minute of every touchdown, three-pointer, or seventh inning stretch this fall. Wash away last week's loss with a cold pint from local Montana brewery, or crack open a classic if that's more your thing. Cheer on your team at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell, across from the Y.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
If you are hurt or disabled, you may be entitled to benefits from an insurance company or Social Security. I'm Chris Helmer, an attorney at Clark Fork Law Offices. Our Missoula firm specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. There are many unknowns when injured or disabled. The other side is fighting hard. You should too. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colter Nuanez. Here's a little bit of sports news for you. Butte is in the midst of their best start to a football season in a generation, and for the first time, the Bulldogs sit atop the Treasure State Media Prep football poll. Behind the peerless dual-threat ability of future Montana State Bobcat Tommy Mellott at quarterback, the Bulldogs are off to their best start since 1991. They earned 19 of 28 first-place votes this week and moved ahead of defending state champion Billings West for the first time this season. West is at number 2. Missoula Sentinel remains at number 3. Bozeman is at 4, while Helena Capital rounds out the top 5.
In Class A, Hamilton received 11 of 22 first-place votes to remain number 1. Miles City, the only Class A team who was undefeated through 6 games, received 8 first-place votes and is number 2. Dillon came in 3rd, Frenchtown is 4th, and Laurel is 5th.
In Class B, Eureka had a first-place vote that they didn't get for the first time this season.
Fairfield, that is.
They did get. Fairfield didn't get the unanimous number 1 slot for the first time this season, but they are still number 1 with Eureka at number 2. Manhattan is at 3, Red Lodge 4, and Malta breaks into the top 5 at number 5.
And finally, for the first time in franchise history, Washington Nationals are headed to the World Series. Nats posted a 7-4 win over the St. Louis Cardinals to complete a sweep in the National League Championship Series on Tuesday night.
This ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law.
Our number 2. One team is in the World Series, and one series isn't getting any closer to a World Series, and we'll tell you how that is. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the first hour, go check it out on the podcast, the Tutel Nuanez podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. It's there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Why are you laughing at me?
We should ask each other trivia.
Okay, but
unless somebody calls us, 329-1899, call us. We got wings.
Okay.
I know everybody's out there they are all outside. That's what everybody's doing.
That is a fact.
And I'm about to go outside to grist practice. It's going to be glorious.
Quickly, though, do want to cover this just on the baseball front, because
we have to. They're going to the World Series. It's great. It was a stomping by the Washington Nationals.
Well, it was. I mean, they go up 7-0
I just mean the series in general. It was over before you knew it.
Right. 4-0 sweep of St. Louis. I mean, who would have seen that coming? They go up 7-0 in the first inning, and they do almost to the Cardinals what the Cardinals did to the Braves in that deciding Game 5. Scored 10 runs in the first inning against the Braves. Turns around, and they allow 7. The starting pitcher, whose name escapes me for the Cardinals, 15 pitches. All he got. And then he was chased in the first inning last night. The Cardinals, give them a ton of credit. They came back. Coulter, they were down 7-4 and had the bases loaded in the 8th inning. I mean, they had the go-ahead run at the plate after having given up 7 runs in the first inning, but couldn't get it done. And you got to be happy for Washington. I mean, a franchise that hasn't been to the World Series since 1933, I think, and obviously never in their reintroduction to Washington, D.C. And, you lose Bryce Harper, and you think, okay, well, what do we got? Well, what you got is a World Series team, a National League champion, and especially for a guy like Scherzer, who is just such the consummate competitor and loves it and is into it. He was going ballistic last night, in a night where he was not going to be pitching when they got this thing done. And so guys like that, I mean, you gotta pull for him, it seems to me, and disappointing certainly for St. Louis. St. Louis overachieved this season by getting to the NLCS, except for the fact that the Cardinals go to the NLCS at least every other year. So there's that, but nonetheless, you get to this point, and then to get swept is definitely a disappointing end to it. But a very good season for the Cardinals in the main. The other series, the ALCS, Houston won yesterday, so they've now won back-to-back games. They're ahead 2-1. Game 4 postponed, moved back to tomorrow. Weather expected to be horrendous in the Big Apple. They said we're going to not even bring this circus out tonight, so no baseball tonight. And then the ALCS will reconvene tomorrow. We will have that for you here on ESPN Radio at the end of Two Telling Nuanez. We will get that going. All right, Coulter, I'm going to keep my trivia. You give me your trivia if you would like to ask me some questions, because I know you're all excited over there. I have not looked at these. People wonder if I'm like, looking up answers to your questions. And now I'm not going to say I've never done it, but I've done it maybe twice. I usually shoot this thing very, very straight. So I've not seen your questions at all here. So go ahead. What do you got?
Okay, number 1. Hold on, I'm just checking we have a caller.
Oh, okay. Oh, you want to do it? Okay. All right. Well, if we have a caller, let's go ahead and take him in. Shane. Shane, come on down the aisle. Shane, how you doing?
Oh, not too bad at all. How about you guys?
Good. You were about to hear all the answers, but now you're just going to hear the questions, and I'm still going to be as confused as you on all this, okay? So here's the deal, Shane. We got 3 questions for you, and Coulter's going to ask them for you. I will be your lifeline if you need help on one of these. All you got to do is get 2 of them right. You get 2 of them right, you go into the Desperado Sports Tavern to get a basket of wings. Have you been to the Desperado, Shane?
That I have.
Oh, it's glorious. It's glorious. Okay, and then if you get all 3, you're going to get a shirt as well, okay?
Sounds like a plan.
Boy, some chicken wings would really hit the spot.
Tommy likey. Tommy want wingy.
All right, Shane, here we go. Question number 1 from Coulter, which will be as new to me as it is to you. All right, what do we got, Coulter?
All right, Shane, number 1. Who did the Montana Grizzlies defeat to win the 1995 Division I AA National Championship?
That would be Marshall.
Look at that.
Right out the gates, 1 for 1.
Very good.
And we lost the next year, too.
Yeah.
They did indeed.
The Montana didn't lose to Marshall. Let's be clear. They lost. They got mossed.
Fair.
That Marshall team was about to transition to the FBS.
Yep.
It wasn't just Randy Moss. They had a Landis Gary.
Chad Pennington.
They had Chad Pennington, who actually wasn't the starter. He was the backup to a transfer from Florida whose name escapes me at this moment, but he was a SEC drop down. They had a Landis Gary, who went on to rush for 1,000 yards again for the Denver Broncos.
Yep.
And they had Troy Brown, who was a Super Bowl MVP. So not a bad.
And Randy Moss.
And Randy Moss to the tune of, I think, 3 touchdowns in that game. Maybe 4.
I think 4. I think it might have been 4. Anyway, very good. They did get it the first time around there in 95, so very good. All right, here we go. Question 2.
Number 2. Who did Montana defeat in the 2001 National Championship game?
I remember sneaking away from my wrestling duel to go watch some of this when they beat Furman.
Furman is correct.
Look at that.
Very good. The Paladins.
Where were you wrestling at, Shane, if I might ask?
I think I was in Polson.
Okay. So
and the officials and some of the coaches were sneaking away to a back room, so I went and figured it out.
Were you a student that was on the wrestling team, or what were you doing at that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're actually participating in the thing and said, okay, I got some.
I loved the bear wrestling. The bear wrestling, the 112 class, and I was 189, so I had a few minutes.
There you go.
Good.
Shane,
dedicated
fantastic.
fan.
Love it. Hey, that's wings, my friend. You've done it. Very well done. You didn't even use a lifeline. Here we go. Question number 3.
All right, number 3. Who did Montana State defeat to win the 1984 national championship?
Oh,
wow. Asking me questions before I was born. Let me think here. Do you have any idea?
I was born, but only barely. And I don't have a good feeling on this one, Shane, I must tell you. Why don't you say Furman?
I don't think it was. I think it was one of the teams that wasn't. It's not one of the traditional, at least 90s and further on powers.
Yeah,
I know that.
Yeah.
Can you give me like a region or something?
I'll tell you this: this team did shortly move up to the what is now known as the FBS. Shortly after, they're a Southern team.
Could it be Georgia Southern?
Nope.
They didn't move till like the 2000s, though.
Yeah, that's true. I don't even know if they had a team actually in the '84 Georgia Southern. They might have.
They did.
Georgia State, I guess, is the new one.
Yes.
All right. What do you think? Give it a guess, there, Shane.
I don't think it's one of the ones that wins a lot. So, Louisiana Tech.
Wow, he gets it, nails it. Louisiana Tech. For the shirt. Gotta love it.
There we go.
Louisiana Tech.
My brother will be so proud.
I love it. Very well done.
Shane, excellently done, my friend. Give your information to David in the back. We'll get you set up with all the goodies, all right?
All right.
All right. Boys and girls, that's how you do it on a Wing It Wednesday. We'll do another one towards the end. But next, Andy Thompson, the Sacramento State defensive coordinator and former University of Montana Grizzly football player, also former NAU defensive coordinator for a long time. He is the subject of our ESPN Roundtable right here in the middle of the week when Montana State played Sac State last Saturday. Montana plays them this Saturday. A former Grizz, now on the staff, joins us next. Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. We've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
If you are hurt or disabled, you may be entitled to benefits from an insurance company or Social Security. I'm Chris Helmer, an attorney at Clark Fork Law Offices. Our Missoula firm specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. There are many unknowns when injured or disabled. The other side is fighting hard. You should too. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
Tell Us Something is calling for you to pitch your true story on the theme of Tipping Point. 8 storytellers will be selected to share their true personal story from memory on the theme of Tipping Point. And each storyteller is paid a stipend for sharing their story. The live event is happening December 10th with a pitch deadline November 18th. Call 406-203-4683 to pitch your story. Members from our deaf community are welcome to pitch a story online at tellussomething.org/tellastory.
Hi, this is Michael Legg, Artistic Director at Montana Repertory Theater. If you loved our season opener, Go Please Go, or even if you missed it but still want to see the rest of the season, you're in luck. Season ticket packages are still on sale for just $70. That's $70 for 3 more innovative and exciting shows, including our production of War of the Worlds in January. Go to montanarep.com to get your tickets today.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Is in the midst of its best start to a football season in generation, and that 7-0 record was awarded this week in the Treasure State Media Poll. Hey, how you doing? Ryan Tutel here. Glad to be with you. Here's some more sports news. For the first time this season, the Butte High Bulldogs sit atop the Treasure State Media Prep Football AA poll behind their peerless dual threat ability of future Montana State Bobcat Tommy Malott at quarterback. The Bulldogs are off to their best start since 1991. They earned 19 of 28 first-place votes this week and move ahead of defending state champion Billings West for the first time this season. West is at number 2, while Missoula Sentinel is at 3. Bozeman is 4, and Helena Capital rounds out the top 5. In Class A, Hamilton is back on top, receiving 11 of 22 first-place votes, and Miles City is the only Class A team who's undefeated through 6 games. They're at number 2. Dillon is in 3rd, Frenchtown 4th, and Laurel is number 5. And in Class B, Eureka earned a first-place vote. That means Fairfield, who is number 1 once again, is doing it for the 7th straight week, but not unanimously for the first time. Eureka at 2, Manhattan number 3, Red Lodge number 4, and Malta rounds out the top 5 there. And finally, for the first time in franchise history, the Washington Nationals are headed to the World Series. The Nats scored 7 runs in the first inning and held on for a 7-4 win over the St. Louis Cardinals to complete the sweep in the NLCS last night. ALCS, the Houston Astros are up 2-1. No game tonight due to inclement weather. That will be pushed back to Thursday. It is time for our ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls, Missoula's coolest hot spot. And Andy Thompson, the subject of our roundtable this week. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Great to be with you. Thanks for spending some time here this afternoon. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you'd like to find us, you can check us out on the World Wide Web as well, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen to the stream on the Listen Live tab. The stream brought to us by Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. It is time now for our ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls. Enjoy our conversation with Andy Thompson.
Well, happy now to welcome into the ESPN Roundtable the defensive coordinator of the number 15 team in the nation, the Sacramento State Hornets, former Grizz football player and a longtime DC as well at Northern Arizona, Andy Thompson on the show. Andy, thanks so much for being with us. How are you?
Doing great. Appreciate you guys having me on. You guys do a great job covering the Big Sky Conference, so pleasure to be on.
Well, we appreciate that, and we're happy to do it. We enjoy doing it, and let's start with that Big Sky Conference, because Sacramento State was a team coming into this year with a first-year head coach and Coach Taylor and a new staff, that you obviously assemble, including yourself, that
when you have a guy like Kevin Thompson, I think people think, okay, this team certainly has some guys, George Obina, of course, as well, that can really play, but what are they going to do on the field? And what you have done really this entire season, including last week's just dismantling of Montana State, has been really impressive. What to you has been special about the first half of this year? Why have you been so successful already?
Oh, I think, first off, our players have done a great job, and they've really bought into everything that we've tried to coach them, and been very coachable. I think Coach Taylor's done a great job of putting together a great staff. Feel very lucky to be a part of the staff, and I think just in general, our guys prepared really well for the season. They worked really hard last winter and in the summer, and then through fall camp, and then they've come in and done a good job each week preparing for every opponent. So, been very happy with everybody's preparation each week. It's been great.
As a guy that's been in the Big Sky Conference for 2 decades now, what was your impression of Sacramento State before you became a coach there? What did you think of the place and just the potential?
My impressions were, for a long time, didn't know if they, had the funding when they moved to FCS football compared to the other schools. Didn't know much about Sacramento, hadn't spent much time here. Knew that there was always some good coaches and good players that had coached there and played there. They were always very, very competitive, a lot of years. But didn't know as much about it, but I knew definitely the area, because I have recruited Northern California, that there was a lot of good high school players up here, and that definitely could see it as being a great place to coach.
You know what I know about Sacramento? The Deftones. That's what I know about Sacramento, California, and thank you very much for them, because they've been an important part of my life for decades, too. Andy, when it comes to this past weekend, Sacramento State has been a program that's building. I know that you guys believe in it, obviously, and the potential, what it could be. But potential is only potential, until you got to do it. You go on the road to the number 6 team in the nation, and really a very good and very talented Montana State team, and you had your way with Montana State this weekend. What did you do? What was the preparation like to go against a team that is frankly very one-dimensional, but is elite at that dimension in the running game and really forcing 30 pass attempts almost in this game Saturday?
I think we didn't do anything different than we ever do really each week. We played some really good opponents, played 2 really good teams on the road in Arizona State and Fresno State. So I think we approached it the same way we always do. We try to look at what they do really well and try to take that away. And then they got a lot of other things they do well. They throw the football well at times, and they did that on Saturday to us. So I don't think we changed a bunch of things other than we really knew some of their key guys that had a lot of touches and tried to concentrate, on doing a good job with our fundamentals of tackling those guys. And, more than anything, we're on our team. We just want to hold up our end of the bargain. We got a great offense. We got good special teams. I think, being a part of a great team is trying to do your part every time. So I think on the defensive side of the ball, we were trying to do that and get some stops so we could get the ball to the offense as many times as we could, hoping that they would do the same things they've done all year.
Andy Thompson, veteran coach in the Big Sky Conference, defensive coordinator at Sacramento State, joining us on this week's ESPN Roundtable. And Andy, one thing that Jeff Choate said yesterday at his press conference, which I thought was very interesting, he said, all year long, when it's been a physical game, we've been able to use our physicality to outlast teams, just to out-physical them. And he said, I think that Sacramento State punched us in the mouth, and we didn't really know how to react. It didn't go how we thought it was going to go, I think was his specific line. So what can you say just about the physicality of your team? Because Montana State, especially up front on both sides of the ball, one of the most physical teams in the Big Sky Conference, but you guys went toe-to-toe and probably even won that element of the game on Saturday.
I think as a defense, we were physical on Saturday against a lot of things that they did. I think we played with good pad level, and that's what everybody talks about when they're talking about physicality, is playing low and playing square and doing a good job of tackling in the run game. And I thought our guys did an excellent job of that for a lot of the game. I thought, our secondary did a good job of tackling. They have some big kids running the ball sometimes, especially Anderson. And those aren't easy tackles in the open field, and I thought we found a way to get them on the ground and give ourselves a chance to play another snap of defense. Obviously, the goal line stand was a big part of the game there from our defensive line and our secondary. So, yeah, I was very pleased with how physical we played. I think our guys take pride in that. They're doing a good job of stopping the run and rushing the passer, and also, our secondary and linebackers do a great job of filling off of those guys. So definitely was pleased with how physical we played.
The defensive staff at Sac State's interesting because you guys, several of you, yourself, Craig Paulson, the defensive line coach, Cherokee Valeria, the secondary coach, you guys all have so much experience in the Big Sky Conference just at different schools. How much has that helped you guys just in transitioning to being on Troy Taylor's staff, and when you're in the heart of league play, prepare for opponents that you already have familiarity with since you guys have been around the league so long?
I think we definitely maybe can answer some questions if somebody knows, where the game's at, but most people can look that up. But no, I think we know the conference as far as some of the teams and what they've done and what it maybe takes to have some good teams in the Big Sky. But I think our coaches that even haven't coached in the Big Sky are very knowledgeable and do a great job. I think the big thing is we're working well together. I love having Coach Bolson and Coach Cherokee, the guys you mentioned. Jeremy LePan is also a guy that played at the University of Montana. He's our special teams coordinator. Tyler Osborne's dad coached a long time ago in the Big Sky, but we have quite a few, connections to it. But more than anything, it's just how we interact with our players and how hopefully we get them excited to play each week. And because the players, we don't get to go out there and take any snaps anymore. As much as I still think it would be a lot of fun, our players are doing it. So a lot of the credit should go to those guys. They do a great job of getting prepared and going each week.
It's interesting with Coach Taylor there, Andy, because he's a guy who is such a great coach at the high school level and then goes on and is a hugely successful offensive coordinator both at Eastern Washington and then, of course, at Utah. But his first time being a head coach, at the FCS level, he's compiled quite a staff. What is it about him and his reputation that so many guys, including yourself, said, yeah, that's a guy that I think I'd like to go, coach for and coach with?
Oh, I think he's a tremendous person, first and foremost. Very caring, very detailed, very smart. If you're around him for more than 2 or 3 minutes, you're like, this guy really understands people. I think he's done a great job of being caring but demanding. I think we hold our kids to a high standard, but they know that we love them, and that's what he preaches: love. That's our program motto, that we're going to love everything we do. We're going to love being around each other. We're going to love going to school and getting the opportunities you do. And he doesn't want people to fear him. And I think just that message is very powerful. And I think a lot of the staff wanted to be around him because he had been so successful at different levels as a player, being an NFL quarterback, coached at Cal early in his career. He's just been successful everywhere he's been, and it's because he's such a good person. I know he's a family man. He's got 3 kids, so that was important to me. His son, is a water boy along with my son every day at practice, and so it's a good environment to raise your children around, and I just think he treats people really well.
It's easier to tell this kind of thing when the guys that are calling the plays are on the sidelines, but you guys have both play callers on the sidelines, which I think is great. It's atypical, but I think it's awesome. I think you guys can engage with the kids so much. But watching Troy call plays on Saturday, he just looks like he's having so much fun. And it reminds me of a couple other guys that I've seen throughout the years in the league. But, just watching him compete, you can tell he gets a definitely a competitive buzz off of calling plays in the line of fire. And I thought his comment in the Sacramento Bee yesterday, article about you guys getting ranked for the first time since 2011, he said, it's a game, it's not a grind. And I thought that was so refreshing because so many guys treat it like such a grind, and it seems like Coach Taylor's just having so much fun. How much fun is it to work for a guy that likes to have so much fun like that?
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a lot of fun to be around, and he's very well prepared. So I think he's very confident when he's calling plays because he prepares a lot in the off season. He prepares every day, and people that are very prepared, are more confident. And I think that's the thing about him is he does a great job of getting everybody to know exactly what we need to do, and then let's have some fun doing it. Because it is a game, and it's a game that everybody got into because they loved it. And he definitely wants us, and he wants the players to, feel that way all the time.
Andy Thompson joining us. He's the defensive coordinator at Sacramento State, former University of Montana football player, and been a coach in the Big Sky for quite a number of years now. And obviously, the road gets no easier for Sacramento State. You guys, I think honestly have the most difficult conference schedule of anyone in the Big Sky. When you look at stem to stern, the road that Sacramento State has to go through this conference schedule. So now, when you have Montana coming to town, there's so much to talk about here. But what I want to know first is, you've played Montana plenty of times as a former Grizz, but as an opposing coach. How is this one different, especially now with Bobby Hauck maybe back as the head coach at University of Montana?
Oh, I think Coach Hauck's done a great job. Their skill positions are very talented. They're big up front like they always are. I haven't watched a ton of their defense, so I couldn't comment on that side of the ball. I have watched their offense a lot, and I think that the thing that makes them so good is they're not a team that you can just key on one skill player. They have all 5 guys that are involved. And then you have a quarterback that can run, he can pass. So it presents a lot of problems because they're so balanced in everything that they do. They got great wide receivers on both sides. They got a slot receiver, obviously, that's one of the best that's played at that school. So I just think they're very balanced. I think they're very well coached. Coach Rosenbaugh's been doing it for a really long time. Coach Pease has been doing it. Coach German was there when I was there and is a really good coach. Coach Green is a good friend, and I know how well he recruits. And so they have a really good staff, and they've got a really nice group of players that are playing at a really high level. I mean, the quarterback's he's been the player of the week 3 weeks in a row. They didn't get to play last week, but that's pretty incredible feat right there.
Yeah, it's sort of weird to have almost 2 reigning players of the week playing each other because Dalton had it and then a bye, and then, of course, Kevin Thompson. But I'd like to ask you, though, about Dalton Snead specifically, because so often it's easy to look at the skill guys, especially the receivers at Montana. But Dalton Snead, what is it that stands out to you when you are scheming it up to go against him? What does he do well, or the best maybe to you? What really do you have to deal with?
Well, I think just, before you even talk about his skill set, he just seems like such a tremendous leader. He's diving after balls. He's diving for first downs. He seems like really their heart and soul of their team. I think he's really looks well prepared, knows where to go with the football. He does a great job of changing the play at the line and getting his offensive line in rhythm. And then I think the other part about him, and you're dealing with a veteran quarterback, is he understands what the defense is trying to do, and so he makes a lot of really good decisions. And then his skill set is he's got a really, really strong arm, especially throwing the ball to the wide flat. A lot of quarterbacks won't even do that. He throws the ball all over the field, so he makes you defend it wide, and then he can throw the ball deep, and they've done a really good job of connecting on a lot of big plays. And so they're rolling right now. It's going to be a great test for our defense. And I really think they're playing as well as any offense in the country.
You've been around the league long enough to know that sometimes there's just these absolutely special players on the outside. I mean, from Cooper Kupp to Keelan Doss to Emmanuel Butler, guys that quite literally, if they are healthy and they're rolling, you can't stop them. Montana seems like they have a couple of those guys, mainly Sammy Akem, number 18. Against Idaho State, Montana's down 17-0, and they just isolated Akem on the wide side of the field and just threw him the ball over and over and over again. He had 8 catches for 104 yards in the second quarter alone in that game, and that really sparked their comeback. When you're watching him on film, how big of a challenge is he, especially just given his natural physical talents?
Oh, I think he's very good. Yeah, he's physical. He catches the ball all levels. They run a bunch of different routes. Sometimes a big guy like that, you'll just get him on certain routes, but they bring him on under routes. They throw it to him, curls. They run hitches with him. They run fades. So definitely a huge challenge. And again, if you put too many people over there, they have the guy on the other side, number 8, that's really fast, made a lot of good catches, runs really well down the field. So yeah, it'll present a big challenge.
Andy, you got some dudes on your defense, though, that are pretty good as well, and there's plenty of names, but I guess maybe the guy who stands out the most, George Obina, had 4 tackles, 3 of them for loss, 2 of them sacks on Saturday against Montana State. When you got Big George standing there, rushing the passer and just doing what he does on the defensive line, what kind of disruptive force is he?
Oh, he's very good. We joke he looks like the mannequin that's sitting up in our office sometimes. The guy, big guy. He's done really well, and Coach Polson has done a great job, coaching him and getting him playing. I think we got a lot of other guys, too, that play really hard, really well. George has done a good job with the sacks, and he'll continue to do that. That's something that he loves. But you got to get him in those situations also. So I think our defensive tackles have done a great job. I think Wyatt Jones done a great job. I think Erickson's done a great job. I think, again, our secondary and our linebackers have made a lot of plays to get them into situations where George would tell you now he can go do what he does, which is rush the passer. He's also done a good job in the run game. So I do think it's a collective group, but it is definitely great having George Obina on our defense.
No need to show your hand in terms of the specific schematic stuff that you guys are doing.
What are you talking about? Give it all to us here. You lay it out.
It's like Bobby Echo says, game plan question? Next. No, But I want you to just talk about calling defensive plays in the Big Sky in general. How has your defensive philosophy evolved, and what do you think of just being a defensive play caller in college football in general? Because it just seems like the offenses are at such an advantage right now. So how have your theories and philosophies changed?
No, I love calling defense. I love coaching. It's great. It's a lot of fun. It's a challenge every week. Going from, the Arizona State running back who was, led the Pac-12 last year to Fresno State, to Northern Colorado's quarterback being one of the all-time passers there, to Southern Oregon had a receiver that was really good. I think he's going to probably be in the NFL. I could go down the line of guys that we faced already, and then Montana State, all the guys they had last week, and I think it's a great challenge. It's a lot of fun. I think our guys like playing defense. We like to play defense. As far as the philosophy, it doesn't really change. You always want to, you either want to stand there and let people hit you, or you want to go attack them. Not really into standing around. My personality with my guys, if I tell you, we want to go attack people, and you can attack people with a lot of different ways. 3-man rush, 4-man rush, 5-man rush, 6-man, you name it. There's a lot of different ways to do it. The key is hopefully your kids are confident in what they're doing so that they can attack. And we try to get them as a defensive staff each week to do that.
What's the dynamic like? Because you worked for Jerome Sowers for so long, and Jerome's a defensive-minded guy. He was the defensive coordinator at Montana for a decade plus, and I know that he really handed it off to you, but you guys worked kind of together. What's it like now working for an offensive-minded coach, a guy that is, that is the primary play caller on offense and has such an offensive philosophy?
I think I've learned a lot from both. I learned a lot from Coach Sowers. I thought he was great and helped me develop a ton in every walk of being, a coach on defense or offense. And Coach Taylor has been very similar. We've talked a lot of football. We actually lived together for 3 months when I first got here. It was actually 6 of us in the house.
Wow. Living with your
no
boss,
furniture.
bold move.
Yeah. So I met the guy. First time I met him was here. Then we moved in 2 days later. So we got to know each other really well. We ate a lot of meals together. And so I feel like I've learned a lot of football from him. He's got a vast knowledge of different schemes and different things and way to do things. So I think that's the great part of football is it brings you together with so many different people, and you can learn so much about football, but also life. And I think I've learned a lot from definitely those two people, and very thankful for my time at both places.
Andy Thompson joining us, defensive coordinator of Sacramento State. Sacramento State hosting the University of Montana in a top 15 in the nation matchup, 7 o'clock kickoff night game at Sacramento State. That's 7 o'clock Mountain, Andy. I know it's 6 there. I don't want you to be late for the game,
Yeah, I'll be ready.
Okay, I bet you do know when the kickoff is. That's good. When you're watching a game as a fan or even covering it with the media and stuff like that, sometimes it's obvious you can see when a kid has made a mistake and the fault is on the player. But a lot of times it's sort of hard to tell and assess whether if something goes awry, whether a kid made a bad play or whether the scheme wasn't exactly what it should have been. Is it hard to tell that as a coach, or is it easy to know, hey, that's on me or us as a coaching staff, or, hey, that's on you, you got to fix that? And how do you go about trying to, self-scout as a coach about what you guys are doing and then also understand, hey, when it's just a player who wasn't in the spot he was supposed to be in?
That's a great question. I don't think I've gotten that one before. I think you have to, as a coach, definitely admit when you were wrong. I can definitely think of one, when Eric Barrier scrambled for 92 yards because we brought a blitz, and that was probably not my best call of my career. But you're going to live and learn, and I told the players that it wasn't a great call by me. If he had moved 5 feet to the right with the unblocked blitzer, then it would have been a good call. So I think you, as a play caller, you're always trying to, put your players in the best situation. I think your players are always trying to make plays. There's no one out there going, God, I'm going to screw this up because I want to do that. We put in way too many hours and effort that no one's trying to do things. I think the big thing is, do you make the same mistakes constantly? And as a coach, I'm really trying not to make the same mistake twice, and I hope my players are the same way. They don't want to make the same mistake twice, because then we're not getting any better. But yeah, that's a huge part of each week and each part on Saturday. And I'm definitely not a robot. I get a little emotional once in a while, and then got to get back and coach the guys up and move on from the play. You can't let one play linger for a whole drive, especially how fast these guys are going on offense. You'll give up 21 points if you keep dwelling on a mistake.
I believe I've got this right. Your senior year at the University of Montana was Bobby Hauck's first year as the head coach.
Yeah. Yep.
What do you remember? Now, I know he was on staff. What do you remember about playing for Bobby Hauck in that season?
Oh, he was the third head coach that I played for.
Right.
Head coach Glenn before that.
Pretty much the same guy, right? Joe Glenn, Bobby Hauck.
Yeah,
they're
both different on some things, but I really enjoyed Bobby. I thought Coach Hauck was really good to myself, and I thought he had a different style, but he really cared about his players. He definitely tried to help me numerous times when I was getting done playing, trying to help me get into the profession of coaching. I've kept in touch with him throughout the years on different things throughout coaching. And, my senior year we had a lot of guys coming back, and we had some injuries. Craig Oakes had an ankle injury, and we were having some, kind of a crazy season. But I thought he did a really good job of getting everybody focused and keeping the thing going, and we made the playoffs. And fortunately, we lost in an overtime game at home. But I have great memories of my time at University of Montana and Coach Hauck.
Well, last question for me, speaking of the past, University of Montana. Craig Paulson's a guy that was an excellent defensive coordinator at UM 2003 to 2009 on Bobby Hauck's staff. Now he's coaching defensive line there. We talked about just your guys' familiarity with the Big Sky Conference, but Coach Paulson, I remember just watching him coach when I used to go to practices, and he's such a unique guy. He unintentionally funny, certainly, because of just the way he is and how hard he coaches guys. But watching your guys' D-line last week, man, they play so hard, and you can tell Coach Paulson's had a huge influence on them. So what sort of elements has he brought to your staff, and what's that like having such a veteran guy who's been a DC for so long coaching on your staff with you?
No, it's great. Yeah, I had Coach Paulson as a freshman when he was a D coordinator, and then he left, and then he came back, and he was my position coach as a senior. And then same thing, helped me get my first job at Eastern Oregon, one of the coaches he knew. So got me into the profession. He had 3 boys, and was raising a family, and I thought that was really cool that he could be a college coach, be successful, and also have a family. And then when this opportunity came up with the defensive line, I just remember thinking he got me so prepared as a player to play in game that man, I would love to have our kids have the same opportunity that I got. And obviously he's got so much knowledge. He's been a coordinator for, I think 20 plus years. And so it was a great opportunity for me to learn and have somebody on the staff that was familiar, like you said, with the Big Sky. And he does a really good job with the defensive line. He also helps a lot with what we do on defense. He's a good resource for me, really good resource for our whole staff. And we're very lucky to have him. And I think he's brought a lot on the field and also off the field to the program.
Andy, last question for you. A lot of times new coaching staff takes over, and it's kind of a building process. But Sacramento State, you're good right now. What are the expectations for this season for your football team?
Oh, well, I don't know if we have an expectation of we want to be our best. I mean, when you're coaching and playing, you want to get the most out of everything that you can do. But I think that's always the number one goal. Are we playing as well as we can play? And we're always aiming to play for that perfect game, and along the way, hopefully, we'll be really good or excellent. So it doesn't really change. Coach Taylor, we just look at the next opponent. That's what we kind of do every week, and this week we got a really good one, and so we'll keep doing that. So we don't really look too far ahead. It's really, Coach, I thought this was great. He told me, hey, every practice is like the Super Bowl for coaches. That's a chance where we get a chance to go out and make the players better. Because when we get to the game, they either know it or they don't know it. So every day is the Super Bowl. So today, when we get out there at 3:30, we'll be ready to go and try to get these guys prepared.
Sacramento State, Montana, Saturday night, number 15 versus number 5. It's going to be great. Andy Thompson, the defensive coordinator, the Sacramento State Hornets, with us on the ESPN Roundtable. Andy, thanks so much.
Thank you, and really appreciate it. Again, we got a lot of family in Montana, and I know they're hopefully listening, and always anxious to come back in the summer and be around Missoula. It's a great place, and enjoy your guys' show. So appreciate you having me on.
There you go. Andy Thompson, ESPN Roundtable defensive coordinator for the Sacramento State Hornets, and they got that thing rolling right now. We appreciate him very much. The ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls at 3621 Brooks Street in Missoula on the south end of town, near the intersection of Brooks and Reserve. A great space, a number of different spaces, multiple rooms, indoor, outdoor. You can sit on the deck. Beautiful evening for it right now if you're looking for something to do outside. Also got the gazebo, kind of sitting like you're sitting on the window car in the of the train when you're traveling cross country. Great spaces over at Paradise Falls. An updated menu and 18 rotating beer tap handles, a late happy hour, half off appetizers, $3 draft beers, 30 different televisions, all with ESPN3 capabilities, so you can watch all of the obscure sports or maybe the lower level, call it FCS football, that you might be interested in. They got it at Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls, 3621 Burke Street. They've been there a long time. If you haven't been, or if you haven't been in a while, get in. Paradise Falls is Missoula's coolest hot spot. Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
We combine quality ingredients with home-style recipes to create the Montana Club's fall comfort food menu. Savor our tender boneless beef short rib or caramelized brandy apple pork shank. Dig into our classic savory chicken pot pie or fall for our zesty skillet lasagna. Top things off with our creamy pumpkin skillet a la mode. Scratch-made comfort food that's as real as it gets. Served 11:30 to close at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
The Polaris factory authorized clearance is here. The world's best-selling off-road lineup is priced to move with financing as low as 3.99% and rebates up to $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. The best deals of the year are happening now. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $3,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris factory authorized clearance. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Kurtz Polaris is now showcasing all of the new 2020 Polaris off-road vehicles. To be the first to get a great deal on brand new state-of-the-art Polaris vehicles at Kurtz Polaris. Online at KurtzPolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 10/31/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Financing offer valid on 2015s through 2020s, subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
Get ready to sing, dance, and laugh until your cheeks hurt with the interactive, unforgettable Dueling Pianos show, October 19th at the UC Ballroom. Dueling Pianos is a gala benefiting Montana children, and you can help by purchasing tickets at montanahope.org. Guests will enjoy a lively evening of dueling pianos, hors d'oeuvres, silent auctions, and raffles. All proceeds will benefit the Montana Hope Project and Catholic Social Services of Montana. Kids 10 and under are free. Learn more and purchase tickets at montanahope.org.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy, education, and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Good evening. FBS football. It's getting interesting right now, isn't it? It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Great to be with you on this Wednesday afternoon, a beautiful Wednesday that it is. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Thanks for spending some time with us on your radios. Coulter is out. He went down to practice to get a couple of players. So it's you and it's me, boys and girls. So let's wrap this thing up together. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at KurtzPolaris.com. If you missed anything in the show, you can listen on the podcast. Podcast available wherever you get your podcasts. The Tutel and Nuanez podcast. There, thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Please be just a gem, would you? Rank that thing, subscribe to it, review it. We appreciate all that stuff. You can also check out the FCS Speculators podcast. Our brand new podcast going to be out tomorrow, episode 4 of the FCS Speculators podcast. Some great guests on that, going through the Big Sky Conference against the spread and totals, and some premier games in the FCS and even the FBS as well at the end of that thing, so you can go check it out. Want to remind everybody, starting next week, really excited about this. We got the giveaway of the season coming to you. A kegerator and a keg. How about that? I mean, it wouldn't, the appliance is great, but what is it without the beer in it? Well, we got them both for you. Kegerator from Fred's Appliance, a keg from Great Burn Brewing. We're going to start the word of the day on Monday, so make sure you're right here. We will give out the words. You will text them in. We will have a grand time, and somebody is going to walk away in this autumnal season very, very happy. So you're welcome in advance for that. Hey, the college football rankings have had a slight change. I don't know if you're aware of this in the AP poll. Alabama is number 1. They have been this whole time. You know who's number 2? Not Clemson. How about that? The LSU Tigers, after a convincing win, a big win over Florida, a very good Florida team that they still handled their business with Saturday in Death Valley. The LSU Tigers are the number 2 team in the country, followed by Clemson and then Ohio State. By the way, all 4 of those teams getting first-place votes. Pretty evenly, too. 30 to Alabama, 12 to LSU, 11 to Clemson, and 9 to Ohio State. Now, this is what I like about these polls, which I used to hate. But these polls now, they'll move teams around. It used to be that just because, in virtue of where you were slotted in the preseason or after the first week or two, you kind of held your spot unless you lost. But now they are rewarding teams based on the way they look, based on their really good wins, and moving them around somewhat accordingly. And I think this is great. Is LSU better than Clemson? I don't know, but their resume is better, and the way they've looked has been better. And again, that win on Saturday against Florida, who's also a very good team. By the way, Florida dropped from 7 to 9, so it's not like they fell precipitously by any stretch. But that's a huge win, and you should move up 3 spots in the poll if you beat a top 7 team the way that they did, it seems to me. The other thing that I love about this is that it doesn't matter anymore. It literally does not matter. The AP poll, the coaches poll, by the way, Clemson's still number 2 in the coaches poll, for what it's worth. Those polls are just for fun, just sort of a weekly take a peek at it and see where we're at, so you could put a number adjacent to it on College Game Day on Saturday morning. But the big poll, the college football playoff poll, doesn't come out till November, so we're still about 3 weeks away from that thing coming out. And what I like about that poll is that it's honest. But you got like 10 people sitting around, 10 people sitting around deciding who they think is the best, regardless of any of these other polls, and also not with historical bias. And what I mean by that is it's hard to take Alabama out of the number 1 spot when they've been in the number 1 spot and they're undefeated. But just because they're there doesn't necessarily mean that they should be. And by the way, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. But the AP poll is going to be very hard to remove Alabama from that number 1 spot unless they lose. Whereas in this new college football bowl, you can take a body of work from the first, 10 weeks of the season and make a determination about how good each resume is and just how good each team has looked, and slot them in accordingly and have an open conversation and debate about that. And Alabama may very well be the best team in the country and maybe very well should be ranked number 1, but not just because they're there. They will have to have done enough on the field. And by the way, by the 10th week, you will have enough film, right? You will have seen over half of the conference schedule, to say nothing of the non-conference schedule of these teams as well. I like the way they do it. It's the only thing, actually, that I like about the playoff, as quote-unquote playoff, as it exists right now, is the way they've chosen to done the rankings. If you remember in the BCS area and those garbage computer, spit out, some quantifiable sum. I hate all of that. Just let some people who know a little bit get together and have an open, honest conversation and give me 4 teams, okay? Better yet, give me 12 teams. You morons. Not you morons, the ranking people. They're fine. The people who run this thing. But in any case, give me 4 teams, and we can see where we're at from there. Because I think Ohio State's going to be higher than 4 when those rankings come out. I really do. I think Ohio State's looked as good as absolutely anybody. And by the way, they were talking about the Big Ten being down. How about 3 of the top 6 teams being Big Ten teams? Ohio State, Wisconsin, Penn State. 3 of the top 7, top 7. All 7 of the top 7 teams, goose eggs in the loss column. They're all 6-0. Bama, LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Penn State. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good group right there. Penn State and Wisconsin are supposed to have down years, and they are absolutely... They're not just winning, they're dominating. They're crushing teams. Love it. Week 8. College football. It's a beautiful thing. Boys and girls, have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Remember, no baseball tonight, okay? ALCS postponed due to weather in New York City. So enjoy your evening. We'll be back with you in 22 hours. We'll get you set for ALCS Game 4 and a ton of other stuff on a Thursday. Good night.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality